Welcome back to another episode of the Soul Centered Attorney Podcast, where we go over the good, the bad, and the ugly about running your own law firm in the age of AI. Today, I'm honored to share that our guest is Diana Adjadj. She is a rock star attorney out of San Diego. She's a graduate of the Trial Lawyers College. That's actually where I first met her. And she's a legendary attorney in Southern California. She's obtained millions of dollars for her clients and focuses not just on obtaining financial compensation and restoration, but also focuses on restorative justice. So getting creative about finding different ways to restore dignity to the people in our community. One of the things I really admire about her is that she gives back to the community a lot. She's a teacher at let me make sure I have this right, at Southwestern College, where she teaches different types of classes to our paralegals, and she is also a fellow yogi and dear friend. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Diana Adjadj. Diana Adjadj, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm doing good. Excited for this podcast. How are you?
Doing really good. Yeah, really excited to catch up and learn more about you.
Yeah.
So we're here to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly about running our own law firm. And I know that you've been running your own law firm for a while. Could you start us off with a little bit of background as far as your practice?
Sure. So it's in June of this year, it ended up being 15 years, which feels... Actually, how long have you had your practice for?
Actually, no, like 14 now. Yeah.
Close in time, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know about you, but like when I started my practice, the market was horrible.
Yep.
And I was looking for work and I got one offer that I really didn't want to do. It was like an estate planning attorney out in Palm Desert, which I don't know if you know the area. Oh, yeah, you
A
do.
little bit. Actually, yeah, that's by Indio, California, right?
Exactly.
Got it, yeah.
Didn't you tell me that Spokane's the Palm Desert of Washington or something?
Or no, Yakima is the Palm
Yeah.
Springs of Washington. Yep.
Yes. So I got an offer there that I wasn't really too excited for. So I ended up opening up my own practice just like that, uh, which in retrospect, I can't believe I did it. It was quite scary. But I was young and I had nothing to lose, and I figured, why not? Uh, and actually, for the first 3 years, I think I was slightly in denial because I'd be working, but I'd be applying for other jobs as I was working. And I mean, I had no money. I had student loan debt. That's where I started. So I was answering phones in exchange for office space from a bankruptcy attorney. The irony of all of it. And then I don't know, after 3 years, I didn't have time to apply for other jobs, and work was doing great. Thankfully, I grew up in San Diego, so I had a community that kind of trusted me and fed me cases, and I was well connected, and that helped get clients. And I ended up loving it. I guess I'm really not meant to work for someone. I do quite well just working on my own.
Mm, that's awesome. I did not know that. That's a very similar story to mine. I started on my own right off the gates.
Oh,
And I got some offers, but I just couldn't see myself, being under someone else. So that's no wonder we get along so well. That's
we're the same kind of.
yeah. And you're based in San Diego right now?
Based in San Diego. I've been thinking of opening up a second office. We'll see how that goes. But I mean, it's been great. Based in San Diego, but I've been trying cases all over. My last one was out in Riverside. I'm going to try one up in Northern California later this or next year, the start of next year. So.
And what type of cases are you focusing on now?
So the last case that was really quite impactful to me was it was a student-on-student sexual assault at a school district, and we sued the school district for negligent supervision. Unfortunately, our client had disabilities. He had cerebral palsy and other disabilities, and so he had an IEP plan that certain things were required. The school completely disregarded it. So that was quite impactful. I really like those cases. I like cases where I have marginalized plaintiffs, whether it's children, especially those with disabilities, immigrants, low income. I also have a love for fraud cases. I don't know how that developed, but it's been something I've really enjoyed doing. The story of the betrayal and all that actually resonates with me. But yeah, so that was my last case. But the cases that are going to trial, the next two cases that I have going to trial next end of this year. So I have one going to trial on November 3rd that I'm working with another attorney on. That's up in Burbank. It's a car accident case.
Hmm.
Defense is saying, hey, all this stuff is pre-existing. We don't believe your client, malingering, and all that stuff. And then the one going in the start of the year is also it's a premises liability case. It's a slip and fall case.
Hmm. God. And how big is your firm?
It's small. It's small. So it was me for the longest time. And most recently, I mean, it's legitimately a family business. My sister now is my office manager, who is fabulous because she's everything I'm not. She's organized and she's diligent, and she cannot fathom the idea of shutting her computer for the day without finishing all her work. And I was thinking, I was like, oh my God, Tina, I've been operating that way for the past 15 years. Every day I shut my desk and there's so much more to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's very type A, and she's like, "How can you sleep?" And I was like, "I've been sleeping just fine for 15 years."
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's my sister, and then, most recently, my cousin, my younger cousin who's out in Arizona, he got, like, a paralegal certificate. So now he's our paralegal, so it's the 3 of us.
Heck yeah. That's awesome.
Actually,
Yeah.
I didn't hear that because for a while weren't you working with family as well?
Oh, totally, totally. So my sister, who's an attorney, was my associate for a while, and
Mhm.
and now she's just my tenant. She still rents office space for me, but she has her own practice now. And then my youngest sister is a 2L, uh, and she's my law clerk. So she's working super part time. Um, and then I have one more, actually two more assistants besides that. So very very similar in
Yeah.
size.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome that I mean, so all 3 of you guys are going law went to law school.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So we're trying to carry on the family, yeah, family business, pretty much. Yeah, hopefully they, you know, they, uh, they want to stick, or at least my youngest sister wants to be my law clerk for a while, because I definitely, yeah, it's been nice to work with her, and uh, definitely needed the help. It's been definitely busy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, so we met Diana in 2018, at the Trial Lawyers College in Little Nowhere, Wyoming.
Yes.
Um, and one of the things that I really admire about you is how you give back to the community, and how you teach. One of the things that I try to do when I can is teach, help other people out. Could you share about your experience as a teacher? Kind of give us some background on how you got into that, and how do you find the time to do that? And what kind of how you approach that.
Yeah. So actually that's kind of been one of the most rewarding things. It's changed a lot since COVID, but so first I went to law school. I didn't necessarily think I wanted to be an attorney. I wanted to actually be a professor and be on campus. I was in love with academia. So I wanted to be around a university, a campus, and I figured law school might be actually the most efficient and fastest way to get my doctorate and move on and then hopefully end up teaching at the college. As soon as I got the doctorate, it was I tried applying and no one was giving me work. And then thankfully, I ended up meeting somebody who eventually became a mentor to me, and he was running a paralegal department at one of the local community colleges. And from there, he circulated my resume, and I ended up getting a teaching gig early on. I want to say now it's been 8 years. So, after 7 years of working, so it was fine. So I ended up getting. I started teaching about 8 years ago, and it's
Mm.
been fabulous. I mean, at the time when I started teaching, it was like perfect alignment. I had just done a jury trial where I felt like I fell flat on my face in front of the jury. I mean,
Mm.
I was nervous, I wasn't comfortable speaking in front of people, So what I originally wanted to do was to teach, but then I kind of did it for selfish reasons. I wanted to
Mm.
get people in front of a crowd, but then it ended up being the most rewarding thing because I wonder if you might experience this too. When you're working by yourself, yeah, you could call up your colleagues, speak to people and run your ideas by them, and they're generous and they give you your time, but you're limited on how much you really are an echo chamber. So when you think of your cases and you're developing it along those lines, it's basically you reaffirming your own ideas, and it's in isolation in your head. So then when I started teaching, one, I started getting more comfortable speaking in front of people, which was a huge plus. So that was a very selfish part of it. But then I ended up they taught first of all, they're curious, right? So these are people who are paying, they wanna get their paralegal certificates, and they're interested in this field, period, and they're interested, they wanna hear about the cases. Yeah, we'll go through the books, we'll do theory, but they just, like, wait for the end of the class where we actually talk about the real cases that I have on my desk. But then they challenge me, because then they'll be asking me questions, and then it makes me rethink the case, and maybe I should do that discovery. I can't bel and then sometimes I'm like, "How are you even thinking that?" But if they're thinking that, I'm gonna have a jurors thinking the exact same thing. So that's how it started. I mean, I fortunately met somebody who let me go into the system, and then, it's been so rewarding. And that was prior to COVID, I was actually going on campus and teaching on campus, physically interacting with my students, cultivated great relationships. I mean, many students, this is like their second career, and so they have families. They would bring their kids in to my class, and it was so much fun. Like, I actually really enjoyed it. After COVID happened, I stopped going on campus. So now I have a lot more classes. I teach about 3 classes a semester, which is a lot. It's a lot.
Mm.
And I lecture online, but I miss that interaction with my students. However, it is more efficient doing it this way. So I have the ability to go try cases in other locations, and then I just pop on Tuesday nights and I'll lecture. Uh, but I still do get that engagement. So I still run cases by them. They're still very much intrigued, but it's different. I'm doing it behind a desk and that.
Mhm. Gotcha. And what classes are you teaching?
I teach civil litigation. Depending on which semester, it's either foundational civil litigation or procedural. So, like, what is civil litigation versus procedure? I teach business law, and my other class is introduction to legal. So, what terminology we get them comfortable with legal terms.
Wow. That's I never thought about it. It sounds like it's almost you almost have like a focus group
That's exactly.
as a side effect. Um, that that's awesome. That sounds like I never thought about that as being one of the benefits of of having an attentive group of people that are interested in the law and you know and can learn obviously from what you're going through.
Yeah. And it's huge, and actually a lot of colleagues of mine, if they ever wanna work up a case, I'll offer my students, and I'll give them extra credits, and so if the students want to come, they'll, like, log on to Zoom, or sometimes in person, there'll be a location in San Diego. But that one I feel like is a bit unfair, 'cause so now, since it is remote, I have students like, this semester, I have students in Texas, I have students in other states. So yeah, so I normally will do something on Zoom, and if they wanna run a case by them, by all means.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That is awesome. And have you gone into teaching like CLEs or like like workshops and stuff like that?
Never that, never that.
Okay.
Um, I do have a friend though that she's actually amazing. She has, she has a nonprofit, and her whole inspiration behind the nonprofit is teaching parents how to advocate for students. So she'll host workshops. There's a small charge to attend these workshops, but basically you have a room with parents whose students are in the certain districts in San Diego. So at times she'll ask me to speak at that, and it'll be a quick, like, 15-minute presentation on my end. Then I open the floor up for questions and answers, and then I engage with the parents in that regard, but nothing CLE, so never fellow attorneys.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Cool.
Kind of think I have like imposter syndrome. I don't know if I'd feel comfortable. I don't know. I don't know if I'd feel comfortable teaching other attorneys, but we'll see.
I think you'd do awesome. I think we all actually. I was just at a retreat that I mentioned, and we talked. Everyone talked about the imposter syndrome. As attorneys, I think we all have it. It's tough, but I think you'd be awesome. A lot of the listeners that will be listening to us here are people that are thinking about striking out on their own, being solo attorneys, or even just law students. or 1 year attorney, first year attorneys, those people can really learn from kind of our, our trial stories, right? And you you're you're in it, you're in the trenches doing trials, and I think we take it for granted, but I mean those the good and the bad that happens there, I think can really, inspire others, and yeah, I think you'd do awesome. I think you should, if you get the opportunity, I think you'd be great at teaching CLEs. I mean, you're already doing it, right? For with paralegals, I think um, civil procedure is like one of the most important things, for attorneys that are, starting in trial.
I think so. Thank you. But do you know what? I do remember at the last conference I saw you at, I always think of that guy who heard your CLE and then he started his own practice. He was such a fan of yours. You inspired him. And I'm drawing a blank on his name. You know who I'm talking about, right?
Neff, yeah,
Ne-
Neff.
yes. You had such a good presentation. He was such a fan of yours. He's like, when I heard your CLE, and I was like, man, I should have attended Fabian's CLE. He just, the guy seems like he's just booming. He's booming. He has like a massive practice. Do you remember that when we were like, how many people do you have in your office? And then he said the number and we are like, what?
Exactly. He literally had like a, a lot bigger practice than I ever had. So
Yeah. Whole business. I was like, wow.
yeah. So yeah, hopefully you're going to inspire people to do that after this conversation. And actually that's a good example, because I remember giving that CLE talk and definitely feeling like I'm not qualified to talk about this, but here, this is what I got. And
Here we
just
go.
just sharing what I was doing, as far as, starting a LLC and starting, my own practice. And yeah, so it was really refreshing to see that it helped someone.
And you're actually fortunate. I mean, how many times do we do things and we're like, well, hopefully somebody got something out of it. But this time you actually got direct feedback and you saw the results. So it was so impressive, I thought.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
But that actually brings up, I'm always curious about this. And I ask people to start their own practice early on, like you and me, which is rare, by the way. We're not the norm. Normally people.
Exactly.
So if people are thinking of a break off on their own, so I've always entertained, I think we had the discussion when we were in Loomy Island. If I could go back in time, look, I love working for myself. I would have it no other way. I really don't feel like I work at all. Unless I'm responding to discovery, I enjoy what I do. But in retrospect, I think I would have wanted more trial experience. I wonder if the better, who knows, but I wonder if the better route for me would have been work for the public defenders or work for a high volume practice and get something like 15, 20 cases under my belt per year,
Hmm.
and then have broken off on my own. I always wonder if I feel like that might have been a more stable avenue for me. But then also then you hear about the whole, hey, once you start and now you have expenses and this, it's harder to break off. I had nothing. I had nothing at the time. It was very easy to start because I had nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts on that? Would you have done it differently or are you happy that you started right away?
Yeah, great question. I've thought about that quite a bit. I think there's pros and cons to both. Uh, Personally, I'm glad that I did it the way I did it, because I had it was like trial by fire. I literally had judges yelling at me when I didn't do the right filing, or it was rough, but I think at least for my personality, I think it was good that I did it that way, because I had to, it was like sink or swim. I had to learn, and figure it out. Whereas I think if I would have started with someone, I, I struggle with authority, to having somebody over me telling me what to do may not have been the best for me. But some people really benefit from that, and that's actually the more traditional route, I feel, is for it seems like, at a law school you do 1 or 2 years at a, public defender or a law firm, and then strike out on your own. So I think it depends. It depends on people's personality. But for me, and it sounds like for you, I think it was a good fit. I definitely don't have any regrets. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so I have a few. So I have a few topics. Please, please, uh, bring up anything as we go. If there's anything that you want to talk about instead of what the questions that I have. But one of the one of my theories is that uh, jury trials is a very important and powerful system that we have here in our country, and I tell people that I really believe that it's the most powerful and ancient quantum computer when you get 12 people having to put their minds together and make the right decision that's going to help the community on setting the standards that we want to live by, in our community. How do you what are your thoughts on jury trials? Why are you a jury trial attorney? And yeah, kind of what are you why are you in this line of work?
No, so I feel the exact same way as you. Um, First of all, we forget that this whole self-governing system is very unique to the US. And you don't have this civil courts in other countries where you're sitting and paneling
Hmm.
members of society and make decisions. It's not the norm. So this is really unique. I think it means everything, right? Because when you think about what is okay, so we're a self-governing country, period. What what actually can we do as citizens of this nation to actually do our service? You're limited to like three things. You could vote, which you should. You should vote. You can engage like what is it, like civic engagements, protests, or get involved with certain lobbyist groups or whatever it is that you choose to do to advocate, or you sit on a jury. And sitting on the jury, I think, is actually the most impactful out of all of them, right? It's important to vote, but you're one of millions, right? Do your civic duty, but it's really hard. It's really hard to get a loud voice. I mean, some people were able to generate louder voices than others. But when you're sitting on a jury, yeah, one, there's the power of collective thought, but you're one of 12. When you're back there and you're deliberating and this, you really have power and influence to guide how all future cases and behavior changes in society. And I think we don't really it's a huge deal, and to be honest, I never thought of it so much until after I became an attorney, I was trying these cases. And you understand the power of case law, and you understand how one verdict ends up setting the precedent for many future cases. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the most sacred things we have in our system and in our nation in general. I imagine you feel the same way because basically you've committed your career to doing trial work.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, one of the things, kind of riffing on that, that I tell people is that if if the attorneys do their job, being on jury duty is way better than watching Netflix. It should be, at least. I mean, the idea is that you get to learn some sometimes very juicy drama
Mhm.
that goes down, and then you get to decide who you get to decide what's what, who did what, who should be responsible. um, and the training that we put ourselves through, with the conferences that we go to, as attorneys, it's our job to be the director of these, you know
Yes.
these uh these these cases, and to put them, make it simple and easy for a jury to decide. But I think um yeah, that's one of the things that I enjoy, is being able to tell, my client's story, and to really get the truth to come out, and sometimes sometimes the truth hurts, sometimes I've lost, jury trials, and sometimes things like that have to happen. But I think overall, all the results that I've gotten were what our community needed, even if sometimes it was not what me and my client wanted,
Yeah. And it's
yeah.
powerful. I mean, it's even powerful to lose cases, right? You've in a certain way, even if it's not a success for your clients, their stories heard. They feel seen when they haven't been seen. Something that's been, I hate this concept of frivolous lawsuits where people think we go to trial for jokes. We know how much. I mean, this would have been a case that lives on our desk for 4 or 5 years. Not only do we know our clients and take time away from our own lives, our own families to sit and meet the client's family, talk to their friends, get the story. We commit to them in a way that's it's a which we do with joy, right? We do it, we commit to them, we put in our significant resources, we leverage ourselves financially, emotionally, time, all that stuff, and then we go and we try these cases. So normally when we're in the courtroom, it's not some joke of an incident that we're just putting and wasting the jury's time and putting on this show for people. It's so impactful to the client, and we're not able to get a resolution. So, we put on this time, but yeah, I think it's important to lose cases, and it's important. I mean, it's better to win them, but it's also important to give the client the opportunity to sit there and share what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, man, there's so many things I really think that it's also a way for the community to listen to each other. I think sometimes we talk about how, listening is one of the most important skills, and I think it can really solve a lot of issues. And I think when you're a person of 12, or, a jury of 12 listening to both sides of a case, you literally get to actually listen, and then, like you said, whatever the jury decides really sets the standard going forward, and it creates a ripple effect, throughout the state at the very minimum, and sometimes it sends a ripple effect across the country, depending on what type of case it is, which courtroom. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's a very, yeah, yeah. It's messy, but I'm a huge fan of it because it has, yeah, a lot of really good benefits.
me too. And really, like, what else we don't consider when we think about that, it's we pull the jury from close proximity to the courthouse. So, there's a reason why you don't pull people from San Diego to make a decision of, like, a case happening in Montana, right? They get to pick their own standards, they get to say,
Yeah,
"What are the norms that we accept for our community there?" Here in this wherever, Southern California, you pull the pool from here, they decide what's acceptable within their own backyard. So, really, this is the way to cultivate social norms, and what is permissible, what kind of behavior do we accept and what do we not? So really you're crafting the culture of your community by serving on the jury.
exactly.
I wish there was a way that was better explained to people. I wish I don't think I mean, we have these discussions in my classes, and it's shocking because even these students who are, 1, interested in the law, wanna end up working in this area, they wanna be paralegals in this area, they wanna do these cases. And it's still like, "Oh, jury duty, don't you just, like, try to get out of it? Like, isn't that what you try to do once you get it?" And it's like, "No, but I mean, you could actually set the standards, you could change behavior, and you could define what your community accepts and doesn't accept." There's no other you're very limited in what other things you could do that could create such change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I actually got called for jury duty. It's been about a year now, and I was actually super excited. I showed up, uh, and got to go through the process. I got kicked out pretty right away, but it was nice to show up to the courtroom and be in the jury pool, kind of listening to people talk, kind of the chit chat. And anytime I hear someone was called for jury duty, I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome!" I
Yeah.
high five them, and but the reaction is, so the goal is to try to change the reaction of, "Oh man, how do I get out of this?" Because, so trying to make it, you know, like get them excited, more excited than if they were going to like their favorite concert, or their favorite, you know, movie or something. Because it is, that's that kind of level. It can be that, entertaining and meaningful.
It
Um,
can. I mean, it's actually good that you made it up to the room. Last time I was doing jury, I didn't even get to we just waited all morning, and then they dismissed us, and I was like, "Oh."
mm, yeah, yeah. One of the terms, that I've heard that we've talked about a little bit, and you've brought up, is a concept, in our jury system, concept of restorative justice.
Yeah.
What is that? How do you think about restorative justice?
So, I don't know if I told you when we were in Lumi Island that I went up to Geneva and I did a certificate for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was it was a certificate. It was this Geneva School of Diplomacy. So it was phenomenal, actually. I had like former vice presidents of former countries teaching us and all this stuff. And one of the courses, or one of the classes, was geared to international justice. And you see how in other countries it really is. So compensation, it's not really exchanged between them. But what you end up having is certain countries, right? Not every country does this. They're sitting around, they're sharing their story. The other person, the wrongdoer, acknowledges what happened. They're hearing it. And I know we have this concept of restorative justice in the criminal system, right? So victims could give a statement, an impact statement, and families of victims could say their statements and stuff. But when it comes to civil, and that's really where I started thinking of it. When it comes to civil, we really don't, at least for me, I don't see restorative justice too often. We do see that you file a lawsuit. If you prevail, there's a big settlement or there's a verdict. What's nice is you get to see that the institution or the company ends up adopting changes. So for future generations or future customers, or for the future, it's safer, which is awesome. That is a goal we want to do, right? We do want to make an area safer. We want to change policy for the benefit of humanity and society, by all means. But what I felt was missing is this concept of restorative justice, and this was a very big one on my last case, right? So my client is a 14-year-old boy, disabled. We got a wonderful, we ended up settling the day of trial. So we ended up getting a wonderful result in regards to compensatory debt or compensation. But it's a 14-year-old boy whom, if you read his IEP, there's prolonged history of he doesn't feel heard. He has a problem advocating for himself. He doesn't stand up for himself. And then we're putting him through this civil action where he has to sit and do a deposition, and that ended up being triggering, and it caused issues for him. And this whole thing is done, and ultimately what you just send a check that actually, because he's a minor, it gets structured and gets paid out in 18 years. It didn't feel fair. So this the thing that kept eating at me was this whole concept of restorative justice. And so part of our settlement and the negotiations is I said, look, there was no way the school was going to issue an apology. But I said, I want something. I want to give the kids something, because him getting a check in 4 years or 5 years is not sufficient. And so part of the negotiations included a certificate of courage. They didn't do acknowledgement, but there was, for the kid who was unable to advocate for himself, who wasn't able to speak. I mean, even to the extent, Fabian, where like he wouldn't even raise his hand and say, hey, I don't understand this concept. It was that shy. He really was. So it was huge what he did. It was so brave. And from his perspective, all he saw was, I had to go sit in a room, talk about the most traumatizing event that ever happened in my life, which triggered, it was quite bad what it triggered. And now like everything's just, and then there's no court, which to be honest, in this case probably would have been better, because I don't know how he would do talking in front of a jury, if that would have triggered things worse. And so that now what? So I go through this whole thing, I'm traumatized and I don't hear anything. So the certificate was really important to me, and now I think I'm going to actually intentionally try to find ways. Like, not every case needs it. Some case, it really is a matter of a settlement and let the money just exchange the two and we're fine. But cases like this, it needed more than just that. And I wish we really do look at, even in civil claims, we look at things. Is there an opportunity to make our clients' dignity restored? Can we make it better for them? What else do they need aside from a check?
Hmm. That's an awesome story. What did you include in that certificate of courage?
So first of all, which was really sad, the defense attorney who had done it, he kind of like laughed. He did laugh. He laughed we were at the courthouse, and he laughed at me. He's like, "What?" So he's been in practice, oh God, man, maybe 40 years now, so 4 decades, and he's never seen anything like this in a settlement. So this has been completely foreign concept to him, and I was just infuriated. This guy, the entire time, it's kids, because all he does is represent school districts, and these claims are brought by students, minor students. Never heard of this concept. So we did, actually, my sister did an amazing job. She did 3 templates, like sample ones, and she had a quote on there, a courage quote, and we sent it, we attached it to the settlement agreement, and we said, hey, you could use one of these three, whichever one you like, or you could use one of your own. They actually pulled the quote. They basically copied what was on one of the templates, and they did it on the school district's official so they had certificates that they give, like student achievement or student of the month. And so they actually took that and used it on theirs, and it's actually beautiful. And I ended up framing it and mailing it to them.
Wow. What was the quote that they included?
Actually, I have it right here. I took a picture of it. Let's see. It's something about bravery is not feeling fear, but standing up in the face of it. Yeah, here it is. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the triumph over a brave man. Oh, hold on. Hold on. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the triumph over it. A brave man is not he who does not feel afraid. It is he who conquers that fear.
Hmm.
Which I thought is, yes. So it's a certificate of extraordinary bravery. I would show it to you, but it has my client's name on it.
Oh, of course, of course. No,
Yeah.
that's and then so then like did somebody from the school sign it or?
Yeah, and then they offered, which was really, so it was really sweet because it's the first day of trial, right? So we're actually outside the courthouse door, and there was a representative of the school district, and she was a really sweet lady, and she had no problem when she heard she knows the story, right? We're here, we're about to go to trial, so yeah, defense could say whatever, but there's a certain acknowledgement that something wrong happened to your client, and she was actually phenomenal because she said, would you even want a certificate? So she wanted to do a presentation. She said, do you want us to call your student on stage? And I said, no, he can't handle attention. Please don't.
Oh,
No,
wow.
more traumatizing. I said, let's do it quietly. My kid is trying to move on with his life, and now we're doing like a whole performance for him. So no, but she was so nice. She's like, yeah, absolutely. So she was actually saying yeah before even the attorney. He was just sitting there dumbfounded. He didn't think that this was something we'd ever want or consider. And it bothers me that 4 decades, and the guy's it's never even phased him.
Man, Diana, well, I'm gonna admit my ignorance. I've actually never heard of that myself. And it sounds I don't do many school student type cases, but I've uh I've tried to do similar things. Some of my employment cases, but that's a really, especially for a 14-year-old, I think that really means a lot to have to the school acknowledging that him standing up for himself is brave. I think that's huge.
I thought so too. And whether he understands it, especially in light from where he started, whether he understands it or not, I think with time, and then if he sees this, if it doesn't resonate now, it will at some point in the future. And at least he has some sort of closure.
Exactly. Totally. Totally. Yeah. And I think, the types of cases that we take, from the ones that we've talked about, sometimes there are the types of cases that not many attorneys, not the traditional firms would take,
Yeah.
and for us to be able to find the truth and the betrayal that our clients are facing and to give them their day in court, I think that has a lot, sometimes a lot bigger impact than any amount of money that we can get our clients, for them to just be able to speak their truths and speak truth to power, um, is yeah, it's a big service that we're doing to, you know, for our clients.
And I think, by the way, I think that's very important what you just said. So I also, like you, I take cases that most often it's been rejected by other attorneys, right? So these are not the desirable cases. And I hate that especially, I mean, and we have these discussions with our fellow attorneys, right? They're like, okay, how do you value the life? What's his earning capacity? Was he supporting family? We just love to turn to that right away. How big are the damages? Is there a life care plan? And it's infuriating that we value a life, that we put different monetary values on different lives. The human life is valuable, period. It's, it's, it's a shame that we quantify one life very different than another. And I think that's kind of why I'm drawn to marginalized clients, because typically they're the one who they're less valued monetary wise by maybe some firms. They're a little less impatient to sit and draw out the story and to hear. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I think
So,
that's why we get along.
yeah, and keep taking those cases. I plan to forever. I mean, I always say that, people, I never, I don't know about you, but I never have a desire to retire whatsoever. I mean, I'm going to be working till the day like I'm in the grave, but I mean, the ideal thing would be if finance is never a question, if monetary stuff is never something that I have to be concerned about, I would dedicate my life exclusively to these specific cases that have been completely
Mm.
rejected and people who haven't been what you'd consider a desirable plaintiff. I want them. That's exactly what I want to do.
Mm. Yeah. Well, yeah, and for people listening to this, I think there's ways I think our life experience really can be a very niche asset as far as finding the stories that, are not like when there's a car accident, it's easy to see the injury. Somebody's has a broken leg. You can tell that's that was wrong. But some of the cases that we're taking, you kind of have to look, beneath the surface to find the the wrong that was done, and and be able to tell that story, and bring out the truth. So yeah, so I think it's good to get creative.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, as far as I'm gonna I'm gonna one of the things that we talk about a lot is that being an attorney is, I think, we have some of the highest stress rates. Just that comes um with the field. It's unfortunately, we're trying to change that. As far as health and wellness, uh, I know we've talked about this a lot, about how, trying to give each other tips on how to stay positive and stay healthy in general. Um, do you have any? Let's start with like morning routines that you either strive to, or have been able to keep consistent to keep top uh, top performance.
Yeah. Do you know, actually, me and you are very similar because I know, I mean, you eat healthy, you're constantly move. I mean, you run a lot more than I do, but the two of us really prioritize wellness, which, yeah, I mean, it's been such a priority for years and it always will be. My morning routine has transitioned. So actually during the college and after, right before before I went to the college, so in July 2018, and then after, I used to wake up at 5:30 and I used to do runs. And it was like I would go to sleep just waiting to wake up to get out there and feel the air and to run, especially before the sun came up. I felt like I was winning at life. Um,
Mm,
I don't Ironically, when I ended up moving houses. For some reason, with the move, I stopped. I stopped doing morning runs. I do now, like maybe twice a week, 3 times a week on a good week. But so I want to get back to doing that more regularly. But now my morning routine has been a lot calmer. So I wake up, and I actually, it sounds so funny, but I don't know if you've listened to the research on red light therapy. I don't
yeah.
know. Yeah, so I don't know if but I sit in front of a red light for 15 minutes and I meditate in the morning, and it's energizing and I get happy with it. I literally feel a shift in my energy, and there's nothing more. I mean, I love it. But it's a much more gentle way of waking up as opposed to like hitting the pavement first thing, cold air. It's like the complete opposite. It's like calmly meditating, sitting in silence for 15 minutes, feeling the heat of the red light, and it feels wonderful. So I tend to do that in the morning. I'm not a big eater, so I'll have coffee or first thing in the morning. So I'll have coffee, and then I've moved, but I've actually now moved so I'm walking distance from my office. So I also then put a podcast in my ear without anything, and I'll just go walk to the office in the morning, and it's fabulous.
That is awesome. I think, is that the one that the Huberman podcast recommends, I think?
Yes, actually, after listening to several of his episodes on red light, I was like, "Oh, come on." And I thought it was gonna be one of those things, which is very on brand for me. I'd make a purchase and I'm like, "Yeah," and I have it in my house and then I don't use it. No, I've legitimately used this and yeah. I think you're supposed to use it like 3 times a week and I do it 5 times a week, so yeah.
Do you know the brand offhand or the type? Is it
No.
just a red light?
Yeah, no, but it has a specific brand and also my friend who's a physician out in New York, she's like, "Dana, this is the one I would get if it." So it has both, it has red light and infrared, right? Text you the name.
Cool. Yeah, I can include it in the show notes.
Awesome.
I've I've heard of that, and I haven't tried it yet. So I might have to actually pull the trigger on one of those on Amazon and try it out. You're inspiring me.
I love it. I love it, and I don't think it's, I mean, some people think it's bogus and some placebo effect. Even if it is a placebo effect, it's so, let it be. So it serves me.
Heck yeah! And then, do you have do you have like meditation cushions where you do it like in front of the light, like kind of, or do you have like a place in in your house?
Yeah, so I have a, actually, I think when you were in San Diego, you actually came to my place, but I don't know if I gave you a tour, but there's a, I have a separate room, a room next to my bedroom that has, so it has like my spin bike and it has, my red light and so it's a room just dedicated to like, I don't know, the wellness room, I guess. But and I have a certain like bench that's made for meditation, so you're not
Mm.
necessarily on your knees and stuff like that. But actually, I end up sitting in front of it or
Mm.
in front of it, and I don't even use the bench that I bought. But yeah,
Mm. That's awesome. Any other hacks like that?
no, I mean, but I totally buy into this like trend. So I was actually thinking about those. I don't know, have you heard of this? The vibration plates. I've been thinking, I was like, should I do that? But I don't know. I don't know if I should turn my 15-minute routine in the morning into a 30-minute fiasco. Uh,
Yeah.
15 minutes is just perfect. Those are the big things.
Got it.
Walking to work first thing in the morning and then sitting in front of the red light, it's amazing. But it does cause me to work out later in the day in that situation.
Got it. Yeah. And you know, when you're in trial,
Mhm.
is there anything you do different? You know, as far as like your morning routine, you know, or like if you're in a different city or um, not at your house, is there anything? Are there any things that you make sure you that happen even either in the morning or throughout the week?
Yeah. So at trial minimum, after trial, I'm running 30 minutes a day, period. Like there's no way after that. Although, I mean, it's like adrenaline running through you, right? Like, so although you're not even, I know everyone says, hey, a trial should be when you're the healthiest and stuff, but to be honest, I'm living off of coffee and chocolate and Coke and popcorn. Like that literally becomes my diet for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, however long it is. But I have such adrenaline running through me. I can't sleep very well, so I need at least 30 minutes of running. But in the morning, it depends. If I'm in San Diego, then I'll sit in front of the red light, maybe not full 15 minutes, but at least I'll do 5, at least I'll do 10. And there's no walk in the morning, so I'll stretch. So no matter where I am, if I'm in a hotel and trying a case, I'm stretching in the morning, just something to get blood flow going through me.
Mm.
And then I'll go to court. But you know what I realized in the so I'm a lot quieter, especially now that I stopped running. Because when I used to run, I used to have like music pounding in my ears. I'm a lot quieter, and it's a slower start in the morning. You, I'm calmer. I'm more present for work, for the work day, and this, as opposed to like, yeah, yeah, like everything's like energetic. It's a little bit more intentional now.
Mm.
What about you? Do you have trial rituals or do you have morning rituals?
You know, I'm trying to I like your idea of having it be more calm. You know, mine lately has been, and you know, it's changed. And you know, there's some days that I skip, but on good days, I wake up and do um, about 15 minutes of stretching, and then a kettlebell weights, and then like literally, I do 50 push-ups, 50 sit-ups, um, and then some yoga, and I have kind of like like I have it down to like 15 minutes, um, and then I go straight to coffee, and then I just start chugging coffee, and I think that makes it so that I'm kind of like, you know, kind of like, let's go, you know,
Right.
um, but yeah, I'm trying to. trying to find ways to have it be more of a more steady and calm energy throughout the day instead of kind of yeah. I think coffee is one of my vices that I'm trying to you just kind of soften a little bit.
Yeah. I think, I'm who am I to talk? I'm like at 4 to 5 cups a day too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's a I think it's a necessary evil sometimes, and then the taste. I've yeah, I think it's a such a yeah. Um, I don't yeah, I think coffee and most studies say it's healthy for you. So I think we need to give it its due credit. Coffee's not all evil.
I agree.
um,
I'll tell you what's evil, my energy levels when I'm not drinking coffee. I don't know if you ever tried stopping, but my headaches are unreal. It's not even an option anymore.
exactly. Yeah, no, I've definitely I've gone a few days without it, and yeah, no, it's a struggle. I think we have to take care of ourselves. In that sense. Um, yeah. Do you so one of the things that I wanted to ask you about is AI.
Yeah,
Um, and just kind of what your thoughts are on it in general. When is it going to take over our jobs? And yeah, and how do you approach it?
yeah. So, I mean, we actually use it in my office a lot. I don't know if well, uh, Eve, I use Eve, which is an AI program that has been phenomenal. So, look, I'm not very good at managing or anything like that. In fact, that's why my sister's been such a blessing. It's because she's good at doing this stuff. But it's actually been able so she's able to do some legal she could prep discovery, she could prep complaints. We're much more efficient. So now I get to spend time digging into discovery, spending time with, my clients, like family and friends, doing interviews. It's freed up a lot of time, so I'm actually really thankful for AI. I'm curious to see how you feel about that as well. I know, however, there is talks about, "Hey, should AI replace jurors?" That stuff scares me. I think if we have a situation where AI is replacing attorneys in totality, I think that's a big problem. Um, right? We're all biased and we all have our own perspectives, right? We walk into a case with our beliefs and our stereotypes of what our life experiences gave us. We're human. This is the human experience. But we also have the ability to sit down, talk to our clients, hopefully discern what's important to them, what's coming off authentic, what's not. And then what is that we want the jury to see? What is relevant? What information can we give them so they could comprehend the situation? They can they can relate to our client and that and so forth. I think if things go to AI, I mean, first of all, now we're not self-governing anymore, right? We have these computer systems and algorithm and data like running our lives. But in addition to that, it becomes so impersonal. The connection between already, I think as members of society, we don't feel really attached to our government, especially in certain places. Like maybe if you're in DC, you feel a lot more connected
Mm.
to the government. But when you're in Southern California and it's a beach city and you see everybody with surfboards, it's a beautiful sight. It's a beautiful place to be. But I mean, you really have to be intentional with civic engagement. So, what are your thoughts about AI? Do you use it or?
Yeah, totally. No, I use it quite a bit. Like similar to what you said. Yeah, I've been using lately. I've been using Gemini and ChatGPT, and I do obviously. I have to make sure that the AI models don't train on my data, and then I have to redact, or give it more like hypotheticals.
Mhm.
But I use it to basically help me. You know, I use it to help me put together outlines, like when I'm writing briefs and stuff like that. And then I definitely have to go in and polish it, or do the final product. So I'm very conservative in how I use it because it messes up a lot. There's some things that it starts hallucinating, and it can really kind of create more work for me than sometimes, than good. So it's been a love-hate relationship, I'd say. Um, yeah. Wait, I hadn't heard of Eve before. Is that a is can you say more about that?
Yeah, actually, I was gonna encourage you. So I use Perplexity as well, which is just a general, like, I mean, I have a subscription to it, and I use that to actually outline for, it's my first attempt sometimes for creating an outline for depositions,
Mm,
and but but Eve AI is completely different. So it is a legal AI platform. I mean, Fabian, like, this thing outlines first rounds of discovery responses, so you're not what would have taken me in the past, or my paralegal would have taken him a day to do. It's done like this, and we're just sitting and doing revisions. It could do first drafts of complaints, and it learns from your own prior work. So you add templates, and then it just, and this is not the stuff that, well, you could, this is not the stuff that brings us happiness. This is not the stuff where it's value added for us. Like, you putting in the best objections into your discovery responses and formatting it on pleading paper is not, there's no ROI on that, right? You're not going to feel happier. I don't know if the client would see any change in response in the ultimate result of the case. And they don't care who's doing it. And so we really free up bandwidth to focus on the real arguments, the litigation, the strategy, the tactics, which is perfect because when you're running your own firm, in the past, I felt like I was barely like staying afloat. Sometimes I felt like I was suffocating or drowning.
mhm,
Now I feel like I have time and I can think of things and there's room and it's a blessing. So yeah, it uses your other pleadings, but it's made for civil litigation. Specifically, it's geared to personal injury cases. So you could actually sit and have discussions with them, and it's fabulous. But it does hallucinate. So I've used it to do like medcrons, and I've seen issues. But the nice things is whenever they put anything in there, there's always like an index, so you could see which document they're pulling it from. So it's very easy to cross reference.
mm.
Yeah.
Nice.
They have a you should do the free trial with it because that's what ultimately sold us. We went, my sister and I were interviewing several companies, and some of them were so weird. They didn't want us to have free trials. They're like, send us your file and then we'll run it through our system and then we'll show you. Eve was so generous up front. They're like, use the program. At the end, we had gotten comfortable after 2 weeks of using it. 2 weeks of using it, the learning curve was nothing. We're like, at this point, okay, yeah, it wasn't the most cost effective, but we didn't even care. We're comfortable with the program. We loved what it did. We used it.
That is awesome. Thank you. I'm definitely gonna check them out.
You should.
I wonder if there's a referral link that you can send me. I don't know if you'd get like a discount or anything.
Oh,
Um,
I love that. I'll find out and I'll let you know.
yeah, totally. No, I think you might have mentioned it when you were first looking at it when we were at the Lumi Island conference.
Yes.
But I haven't heard of that one besides you mentioning it. So thank you.
Yeah. I
I'm def-
think the other two competitors have a bigger marketing budget. What would it be like? Anytime AI is a big one, and then I can't think of the other name. But I mean, that's all it is. They waste so much time doing informative interviews with you, and you're like, let me just use the product. Let me just, and
Totally,
so generous. They're like, take it.
totally, totally. The only I test drove case text from that was bought out by Westlaw, and
Yeah.
that one was okay. I wasn't too impressed. Um, and then I know Nexus has their own.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'll definitely try this one too. I think it's just part of our world now.
Yeah. It'll reap benefit. I think you'll be astounded. It'll free up time. It'll free up uh, mental space to even like think of arguments and craft discovery in a more effective manner. But do you know, by the way, I've also tried co-counsel on Westlaw, and I didn't like it at all.
Hmm,
It's I not that I didn't like it. I mean, it was effective for research and pulling stuff of what you need, but this really becomes an alternative to having an assistant by your side. I mean, it's prepping discovery, it's doing this. It doesn't do research. So honestly, if you wanted to do something that would be really inclusive of everything, you'd want like something that helps you research. So co-counsel with Eve would probably be more ideal, but that becomes too much. I don't have both. I just use Eve.
gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. You mentioned AI taking the place of a jury, and I hope that never happens. But is that a thing now? Like, are people suggesting that?
I've heard there's actually there's talks, like, you hear stuff about it. Um, and I forgot who mentioned it first, and I ended up doing, like, a Google search on it. There's actually discussion boards on Reddit that actually discuss this too, which but so look, I guess they were saying, 1, it's a lot faster, right? You just present all your stuff to AI and then and the idea is, like, out, right? But I think you want the deliberation. You want people in the back of the room spending days, weeks, however long hours. No, sit and have the discussions, discuss your opposing views, and then collectively come up with an ultimate decision. I think that's transparency. I feel like we would trust that over some algorithm that just ran everything and made a decision. Um, but I mean, there's talks of it. They were saying, "Oh, people are biased." So, in regards, if somebody with a similar background looks like you, this and this, you tend to be a little bit more, whether you're more trusting of them or not. Yeah, we walk in with our own preconceived ideas on things because we've lived life. Period.
Yeah.
Everyone does. But it doesn't mean that it's a hindrance to judicial no, but you're sitting there and you're not sitting and deciding on your own. You're one of 12. You don't have lobbyist groups advocating for you to make a decision. You don't have incentive to find in one way or another. You don't have a political party that you need to make a certain decision in a certain fashion so they support you or pay for you or whatever it is. I hope we don't turn to AI.
Yeah. No, totally. I I think we take for granted how good we are at taking in information and making, considering it in our head
Mhm.
and making the best decision. I think we take that for granted. I think, um, I would not trust, like I said, I use it, but I always verify because it hallucinates horribly sometimes. And,
Yeah.
if it's we complain about judges' decisions as it is, if we have AI making these calls, I think it'd be the worst. But I guess I did hear that, don't quote me on this, but I think it's Albania that just within the last few months put made AI its prime minister that's going to make laws, and they're actually doing it like as we speak. Um, so I think some of these things are coming up. Uh, I'm glad that they're trying it first so that they can see that it's not you know I don't know, maybe I could be wrong, and maybe it is the best thing ever, but some people are saying that we should replace our lawmakers with AI. I think some of them I would vote to replace with AI, but we won't go down that down that path. The one thing. Do you think do you think we'd get to the point where opposing counsel would be allowed to be a robot AI? Having to give a closing argument against a robot.
Oh, that'd be interesting. Actually, didn't they have, I don't know if you followed the Puff Daddy or Sean Combs or his case, but I think actually his attorneys had I think it was something like they had a recorder running in the background that transcribed everything happening in the trial, and they would cut and paste that transcript into AI. Did you hear that?
No.
So which, by the way, I do that sometimes in depositions. I record it, and it gets transcribed, and it's a fabulous tool in that respect,
Yeah.
but, I mean, I don't know. So then we sit I don't know if I'd like that even, because then you impanel 12 human individuals, and they're sitting and hearing argument from 2 AI bots or 1 AI bot. I don't know. Because look, when so what does the jury do, right? The jury makes determinations as to issues of fact. So one, they say, "Hey, is there liability here? Is there wrongdoing?" That's one. The other thing they also do is come up with damages. And typically in civil litigation, at a minimum, we get compensatory damages. So we compensate the individual for their losses. That compensation includes, yeah, it's the economic, where you could add all the medical bills and stuff like that. However, it also includes compensation for emotional distress, humiliation. So what was it like as an individual being humiliated? You know, when you prior had your own autonomy and you were able to walk into a room and you had your own individuality, you go to your office and you felt like and now you're not able to. You've lost your autonomy in a certain way. Pain and suffering. However, yeah, like they could look at previous cases and you could say, oh, we had individuals talk to, they explain to an AI system what it's like to be, but you don't, they don't really know, right? That's not, so that would be really sad that if you have, even if it's on the defense end and not on the plaintiff's end, that you have this AI bot trying to explain like, no, this is why the human experience should be valued less. No, it's like, give me someone who actually literally understands.
Mm.
This, you don't know what it's like to be in pain. You don't walk anywhere. You don't have a physical pain that's chronically in your back. You don't know what it's like to live with that discomfort. So I hope it doesn't.
Yeah, I
God,
agree. I agree. You know, if it does, I think we as human, as long as the jury is still human, right? I think we would have that advantage of kind of, you know, being able to sh- communicate kind of like that gut feeling, right? Sometimes it doesn't even take words, sometimes you can communicate it through your facial expressions or just how you carry yourself. And if the defense, um, you know, puts up a robot to, it would probably know all the facts a lot better. It would have, it would have a lot more access and maybe more clever arguments and everything. Yeah, I think there's a lot more to it. And so I think, so I'm confident that I think we're going to need, humans for a while. And I think we'll keep having an advantage, for the foreseeable future. So
God, I hope so.
I know.
And we're also like, it's also not being said. I mean, when we start, I guess, if a defense attorney was an AI robot, maybe that's not. But if we're replacing a juror, if we're changing the parties in the action, like the attorneys, and I mean, we're diluting constitutional rights, right? We have the Seventh Amendment that says, first of all, you have the first is like, we the people of the United, like we are self-governing, right? And then you have the Seventh Amendment that says we have a right to a jury trial where peers, amongst your peers, they get to make determinations. So also, if we do that, we're basically diluting constitutional rights that are afforded to us. And it would be a shame. It would be a shame to get that taken away just like that, because we're like, oh, why not?
Exactly. Well, yeah, I'm glad we have people like you to remind us of that, because I hadn't even thought about it. I'm glad you reminded me of that. Because yeah, so we have the right to a jury of our peers, and yeah, robots are definitely not our peers. I we might get to the point where people will start advocating for robot rights, but
Yeah.
for now, I think we're going to be okay, at least for the next couple of years. After that, it's all bets are off. But
See, I mean, wasn't there? Have you heard? There was like an article about somebody wanting to marry an AI,
yeah,
and I was like, okay, like I mean, regardless, let's not discuss like in regards to, but it is like a fun. People were fighting for the right to marry, same sex and whatever. But what? Now we're going to introduce. I'm not. That's a little hard for me to accept. I mean, I guess I don't have a problem if someone. I think I don't have a problem if someone wants to do it, but that becomes like. So now are we going to advocate for AI rights? Like, I don't. What? Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, it's gonna get weird. I think.
Yeah.
I think there has been people already that have married their AI. I think. Um, I think it's definitely getting. Um, yeah, it's definitely getting pretty weird. I think we. I think we're a ways. I think people. I think we'll. I've actually been studying it quite a bit and just listening to podcasts and trying it, and it's not, yeah, it's good for some things, but it's not there yet. I don't think it'll be there. I don't think it'll. get there for quite a while. I think we're okay. I think our grandkids will have to probably worry about that. They'll have to protest and do all the
Right.
all the rights then. But for now, I think we're okay.
I don't know what I find this to be, like, such a fascinating topic. There was a I mean, just taking it out of the legal sense, one of the I play tennis, and so one of the ladies I play tennis with, she's a psychiatrist, and she was telling me, she's like, "The issue with AI, it's in the past, people will end up going to therapy, and they'll look for self-development, stuff like that, because you're realizing your relationships are having problems, right? You're saying, "Ugh, I'm not able to interact with this person, or this is an issue," and you look at self-reflection. Hey, is this something I could change? Is it so you sit and you evaluate, but when you have an AI as a partner, as a friend, the feedback is always great. The AI doesn't have feelings that they're offended. They don't think you need room improvement. They just adjust to you, and it is what it. So it actually will hinder self development. Also, there's studies that say, hey, people are getting IQs are dropping because now instead of sitting and doing the research and then putting it together and drafting a research paper and all that struggle and the critical thinking and the analysis and the summation and stuff, all that's gone. So this is the long-term impact of this stuff is, and as I say this, which means also someone would be saying, hey, Diana, you shouldn't be using eBay. You should be drafting all your stuff in your own. I understand the argument. I prefer to have a little bit more free time and bandwidth
Yep.
now. But so I mean that stuff's really concerning. And then you did take that, and I listened to Sam Altman. I forgot on what, like it must have been a podcast on something. And like, if anyone really knows AI, I mean, I would defer to him, right? As attorneys, we know that we're very limited in our range. We bring experts to explain everything to us. And then here's like Sam, this guy is at the forefront of AI, right? And he's saying, no, 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 we need strict regulations. We need to govern this stuff because he knows better. He knows far better than any one of us. And if that's what he's advocating, I say we defer to him because no one's going to know better. And he's saying this stuff is scary. We need regulations in place. So I hope we don't adopt these things freely. I hope we try to think of the long-term consequences, and we also look to people who actually know better than us, and we defer to them in that respect. Because I think actually with social media, what happened is we just like let social media is great, and then we know the impacts it's had. Suicide's gone up, people feeling more in isolation. It's actually caused a rift. People have become more politically, there's no acceptance of one another. Our views are more diverse. So it'd be nice if we actually considered long-term effects of these things while we can still kind of control it if we can.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it can be a very powerful tool. Like we talk about, how it's it's helped me so much. Like kind of revolutionized how I do work, and yeah, and having a little bit of free time. Um, but yeah, I think it's important that we keep using it as a tool, but not let it take over, kind of thing. One of our friends in common, actually, Anthony Bribriesco, gave me the idea of using it as a like when I have team meetings with my team talking about a new case. Um, he actually gave me the idea of having basically bringing AI to the table and literally having it give ideas, right? Like, so when you're talking about a case, and I've used it for that, just like literally giving it hypotheticals, and it's yeah, it's an awesome tool, but yeah, like it can, yeah, it's important that we keep, yeah, that we keep it in check, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, kind of, using AI as collaborating with AI. I wanted to ask you about how you think about collaborating with other attorneys. So I know that you do an awesome job of teaming up with attorneys. Um, how do how do you approach that? How do you decide which cases are good to team up on, and what ideas would you give people on things that have worked for you, and things that maybe we need to keep an eye out.
Yeah, so by the way, I love it. So initially when I started my practice, I mean, no one really wanted to team up with me. My cases were
Oh,
kinda junky, and I was, I felt like, "Oh god, who would want to work on these little cases with me?" So I didn't have the ability to collaborate, and I'll tell you, it was lonely. It was really lonely as a solo practitioner, but now, actually, all my big cases that I end up taking to trial, it's always in collaboration, so I don't go to trial alone. Like, I won't sit and do, like, a 2-week, like, I just won't. And it's been a blessing. And I have attorneys that I've pulled them into my cases, now they're pulling me into theirs, which is such an honor, such an honor. Um, I would say, look, it's important that you have the right personalities with each other, but to be honest, I don't even think if you guys have the shared goal of ultimately getting the best resolution on the case, advocating for the client, maybe the personality difference is actually for the benefit. Because each one takes a different angle to the case, and then ultimately the client gets, both efforts. And it's not like an echo chamber, right? It's not like the 2 are proceeding the same way. It's 2 advocating for both sides, and it's quite I think that's zealous advocacy for the client. Um, I think it's also good to collaborate with other attorneys when you're bringing them in maybe later on in the case, because after you've been sitting with a case for 3, 4 years and you've progressed it in a certain fashion, they come in and they bring a completely different perspective that after a certain point, you're so blind because you've seen it in just one way for such a long time. So it's a blessing. You kinda get a second pair of eyes on the case that have a very different perspective than you. And plus it's great. Like, I don't know if you feel this way, but after just working alone, to have a colleague call, discuss, work up the cases with you, it feels like, oh, like a lifeline's been injected in. How do you feel about it?
I exactly the same, actually. Yeah, last year was the first year that I tried a case actually with my sister.
No.
We teamed up on a case, and it was night and day. Before that, I would take pride in going in there alone, um, and having somebody else there it was just, it was just fun. It was just nice to be able to have somebody there to kinda tell you if you're missing something, or yeah, you just kind of, seeing what. Yeah, so it's been huge. I think, um yeah, so going forward, I don't think I will try any cases alone again. I'll find a way to bring even my assistant. I think before I always thought that I don't know why, but I thought it was better to try cases alone. I think a lot of it was kind of like where you said, sometimes I didn't have the experience to team up with others, and I think that's one of the only things I would have done differently, was found ways to team up with other attorneys, even if it was, on a volunteer basis, or just doing kind of the heavier lifting, as finding ways. I didn't do a good job of that. Um, do you have any, um, uh, I guess, how do you approach, one of the challenges that I've seen is making sure that there's clear expectations from both attorneys when you're teaming up, and also from the client, obviously. But how do you approach, getting it in writing, as far as, what the split is going to be as far as attorney fees? And how soon do you start talking about that? How do you have any ideas on that?
Yeah. Well, so there's 2 attorneys that I've predominantly been working with now most recently, and we have a co-counsel agreement that we've signed on other cases, and we just make it our own. Um, I mean, typically what we've been doing is just a 50-50 split and then 50 on cost, and this is regardless who's bringing in the case, which I know is not. I don't know what industry standard is. I'm such a small practice, so I don't know what other firms are doing, but that's what we do. I mean, in actuality, sometimes we're not even really splitting the cost half and half. If one person's like, "Hey, I can't bear it," the other one's like, "I'm good. I'll let you know when it becomes an issue." But then ultimately we're reimbursed. I mean, thankfully in that situation, it hasn't been that it's been like a loss, but and it's been, but there's a certain point after you work with them, they become like friends. Not that it's a good thing. Everything should be in writing and stuff like that. It is signed. Sometimes we don't hold to it, but that's typically what we do, and we sign it early on. And obviously, the client's signing off on it, and the client tends to be happy because honestly, the way it's portrayed to them, and it's truthful. It's like, look, your fees don't go up. Nothing changes on what it is that you're recovering, but now you get 2 for the same price you would have had 1, and they tend to be grateful. And also, I think even the client appreciates it because not that things become stale, just listening to the attorney you initially hired and the client, it's nice to bring a fresh breath of air. They appreciate it as well.
Totally.
How do you do it? I mean, I guess with your sister, but did you guys sign something early on, or is it with family?
Actually, on that case, we she was still my associate when we started the case, and then yeah, we came up with a split for after she struck out on her own, and 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 I found employment cases are actually, I just realized this, I think after this last trial, employment cases really lend themselves to splitting, uh, to teaming up with attorneys and splitting the fees, because if you win at trial, you get your own attorney. The defendant has to pay your own attorney fees. So then, is basically both attorneys keep track of their fees. Those get paid by the defendant, and then the contingent fee, we just divide up in proportion to who worked, how much on which case, and their respective attorney fee rate. Um, you just have to add up the hours that you worked on it, and and then divide it up. So I think it's yeah. So for employment cases, I think it's easy. Even if you have somebody come in towards the end, when it's getting closer to trial, um, and yeah, I'm still trying to get ideas as to what the best way is for, like, just PI cases where attorney fees are not a big part of the case. You know.
Well, your approach actually seems a lot more logical than mine. Maybe mine's also, like, from a perspective of, like, maybe it's also laziness. Um, it's just easy, if it's 2 of us, we'll just but you're right, because sometimes it sits on one of our desks a lot longer than the other person. They're coming in at the last hour, and they're splitting it. But yeah.
No, I think, there's different ways to do it, and I think the main thing is that we do it, because I think it's a huge, most defense firms, big firms have literally sometimes dozens of attorneys on their case, and then when it's just you against literally an army of attorneys, it's not sometimes it's not the best service for your client, so I think it's something that solo attorneys sometimes shy away from, but I think it's something we need to start getting better at, collaborating.
So that actually I wonder if I think you're like me. You don't have a very high voluminous caseload, like, volume-wise, you're not so big, right?
No, yeah.
Me either. And what I've noticed, and I wonder if you've noticed this, these defense attorneys oftentimes don't know the case, especially the situation with it's a very big firm and it's gone through so many associates and this. You're sitting at a depot and you're like, this guy doesn't know anything. Like, even the line of questioning, they could have so approached it a very different way. And you realize, I think they're at a bigger disadvantage, at least us, because the case volume is so small, which is kind of, this is actually not a sales pitch. When I'm doing consults on big cases, especially when there's a lot of intimate details, there's some times when the bigger plaintiffs' law firms do make sense. Absolutely. It's a fender bender, this. You don't want my time. I'm gonna be my motivation to do these cases is gonna be nominal. You just want it as quick in and out as you should. That would be wonderful for you. But sometimes for the more complex cases, you do want the attorney who is excited for your case, energized by it, and they know all the details. And then when they're walking into the deposition, my God, do they know? Like, and I feel like that's what it is. Look, the one thing I could assure my clients is I'm gonna outwork anyone. I'm gonna know the case like the back of my hand by the time I'm sitting at a deposition. We would have not only will I know you, I will know your children, I will know your best friend, and I would have talked to
Mhm.
them on Zoom, and I would have recorded that, and I will review it. Like, I get so involved, and if I'm this involved in cases, it has to be small in number. I
Mm.
can't do that much on a very big caseload. I'm hindered.
Exactly.
Do you feel that way?
Yeah,
Do you feel like defense is not ready sometimes?
totally, totally. I'm actually working on an appeal brief, and some of the things that the defendant forgot to bring up for their client, it's just like, wow, they really messed up. And obviously, I'm not gonna complain, but yeah, definitely things where they just sometimes, like you said, it's too. They have so many cases on their plate that they just can't um, focus on some of the things that actually matter. And I think that goes back to having a human that cares.
Yeah.
Think instead of somebody that's just going through the motions or you know not doing a good job in that sense.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm gonna ask you some few more rapid fire questions, and then at the end, I'll ask you what things I forgot to talk about. Um, so three books that you would there's two parts of this. Three books, the last three best books that you remember reading,
Mhm.
and then three books that you would recommend to someone that's thinking about starting their own law firm.
Okay. Um, God. For personal stuff, did you read that? It was Radical Acceptance. I forgot who wrote it. Radical Acceptance and the Untethered Soul. But it's not for people starting a law firm. This one had huge, it's been a little bit life-changing for me. Those are the two personal ones. And then, what is it? Man's Search for Meaning. Is that the Finkel book?
Yeah.
And the Gift. Both of them are, so four. These are personal ones,
Yep.
right? It teaches you, look, part of the human, it's not, no one's entitled to a peaceful, happy life where you're operating at your highest. No, I mean, part of the experience is the lows and the highs of life. And these four books really just gave me a little bit of peace with this. And we appreciate the highs only because we've experienced the lows. So these books personally have been everything for me. In regards to the lawyers starting their own practice, I haven't actually read any book on business management, which is probably explains why my sister has been such a blessing and she's very organized. I probably could run a more efficient business. I have no interest in exploring it. And now that I have someone on my side who actually does it, fabulous. That's something I'm happy to outsource. But in regards to cases that actually books that have changed my life, I mean, we were talking about Friedman. Rick Friedman, anything that guy writes, get your hands on it. So I'm rereading now for the second time, Polarizing the Case, which is phenomenal because it talks defense. Defense is like, no, we didn't do it, or no, your client's lying. It's either pre-existing or he or she is exaggerating as to the damages. These typically tend to be the arguments on the defense end. It really gives you an approach to how to address this early on in litigation, which is beautiful. The first Friedman book I've ever read, which would be the other one I would have read, would recommend, is Rules of the Road. You know, we do our 3 years in law school. We watch cases and stuff like that, but it's never so concisely put out. I think, I mean, I can't remember what they said in regards to damages, but I know in regards to liability, just make it succinct. If you're not able to summarize your case into like a small, digestible story, this is what should have been done. Defendant failed to do it. As a result, they're negligent. You don't know your case that well, or it's not that good of a case. Um, and he really gives it really is. I mean, I don't know about you. So if you read it, it really must be A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3. There's nothing else that I've read, that actually makes it that clear. And a lot of these books for me are really hard to read. Like, to be honest, like, it's a great book, but even like that reptile book, everyone is just, I couldn't get through it. I
David Ball on damages,
Oh, yeah, well, I've read David
or
Ball on damages, but
or I think it's just called The Reptile, isn't it?
oh,
For now,
maybe
maybe.
some.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I've read excerpts here and there, but sitting down and reading that whole book, I don't know why. There's just something about Friedman's approach that is so easy, digestible to me. So those are my two favorite books. And then the last one I was going to say was actually David Ball on Damages.
Mm.
Uh, it's been a very, very long time. I read that, I think, my first year as an attorney. I don't know if I remember it being like a very A, B, or C thing. I don't remember it like that, but it really makes you think of non-economical damages in another way. I mean, and to be honest, that's kind of the hardest thing that we have to do and the jury has to do. How do you sit and say, how am I going to value what your life is now that every day you live in pain? How, like, you could do the same activities, you get the same earning capacity, but you're now every day for the remainder of your life living with this pain. How do you evaluate the human life? It's hard. It's hard. I don't know what the answer is, but at least the first book that I read that actually gave me ideas how to cultivate it was David Ball on Damages.
Mm.
What
That's
about
awesome.
you? What books are big for you? Or if you mind.
No, it totally. Yeah, you know actually the ones exact same ones you mentioned. You're the second one that mentioned The Gift.
So
Within the last couple of months, so I'm gonna check that one out. I haven't read that one, so I'll definitely. But the other ones, and then um, the one that I'm putting in the rotation is 12 or 12 Heroes, One Voice.
I've
Uh,
heard.
I, yeah, I haven't read that one yet, so that's the one that I'm um work or actually trying to find. Um, and then one thing that struck me that you said, as far as running a business, having your sister, help you with that side of it. Um, I I think the best thing I ever did for my business was hire a bookkeeper, and she's a virtual, an independent contractor. And if it wasn't, yeah, it's like I'm also not organized, and I just kind of have to answer discovery and show up to trials. So, like you said, I think having the right people around us is a huge thing, especially for running your own law firm. Yeah.
I think you really have to know, like, what is it that you're willing to do, and I didn't have the desire to focus on making the most efficient business. Running a business has never been something, but I happened to end up creating one. Like, but that was never something that interests me. I know people who read. I know a lot of very successful attorneys. They run much bigger practices than I do, but it's really operating like a business. They're reading like Profit First, Pay Yourself, like all these
Mhm.
business geared books. You cannot get me to sit down and read one of those things. I was like, there's zero interest. A legal book that's discussing, like anything Friedman writes, like I'm eating it up so fast. So yeah.
Totally. Cool. And how about top three? And they don't have to be legal related, or they can. Top three documentaries or movies?
God, documentaries. Have you seen Kids for Cash?
Not yet.
No, you have to see this documentary. It's insane. It talks about this whole a circle was uncovered where they were sending kids into prison systems because there was
Mm.
just got kicked back. And that's amazing. And then I'll move, and then I'll tell you a personal one. But then the one movie I have all my students ever watch is Hot Coffee. So reform is very. I'm astounded by it. I can't believe it. I can't believe we have statutory caps on damages. I think now that we have judicial decisions cutting out certain damages for certain plaintiffs is infuriating to me. So that's a big one. And I make all my students watch Hot Coffee. No one, everyone's astounded. All my students are astounded. The conversations we have in the classroom after watching that documentary is some of the most invigorating conversations I've ever had in my life. So that's another big one. Hot Coffee, Kids for Cash, and then let's do something not legal related. God, I can't. I don't know if it's a documentary, but there was that anything I see on Elizabeth Holmes for some reason is I don't know this whole thing about the betrayal and the fraud and this anything that I think she had there was a documentary on her, a 3-part series on Netflix or something along those lines, which was just fascinating to me.
Hmm.
And the OJ one on Netflix, it was like that 7-part series, 8-part series. That I mean, I don't know about you, but like I remember as a kid, like being in PE class and then our PE teacher listening to the verdict being read on a boombox or something.
Yeah.
God, I'm full on dating myself.
It's all right.
Unlike the FM or AM radio, but it's so funny. Something that was such I don't think it was significant or not, but it was just a very vivid memory I had as a kid. I remember seeing the Bronco on the TV, all that stuff, and then to hear, and then now to see that it was like, wow, wow, wow. Did you ever
Huh.
watch?
No, I'll have to check it out. I haven't seen that one yet.
You must. I mean, I don't know if like you remember the OJ trial, but I definitely remember seeing it on TV growing up all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Huh. That's awesome. I'll definitely have to check that one out. Yeah, I'm a big fan of documentaries.
Me too.
Yeah, nice. Um, was that three? Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
was three.
OJ, Kids for Cash, and Hot Coffee.
Okay, nice. And then top three non-law or it can be one to three, top three non-law hobbies or activities that you like to do.
God, I think you and me are both yogis. Like, freaking love it. Which, by the way, I guess when you were in town, we went to Core Power. I'm now obsessed with the Del Mar Studio, by the way. They,
Yeah.
yeah, Del Mar Studio and the one in Encinitas. Encinitas has a lot of live, they bring like live musicians in the hot yoga class. Hot yoga is absolutely my thing. And
Yeah.
Core Power is amazing. I'm a huge tennis person. I love playing tennis, but also there's a big social aspect. So I know you were talking about attorneys. Look, high stress job. Unfortunately, we have a problem with addiction within the community because after a hard day's work, people are inclined to just go sit at a bar, have a drink, smoke, or whatever it is that they're doing. Um, for me, I get first of all, I know I'm a little bit fortunate with the weather because I could play tennis year round outside. But I go to my club and I'm surrounded by wonderful people and we play tennis after work and it's the most amazing thing. So tennis, yoga, and then I don't know if it's a hobby, but my friends have been my lifeline. Like, my house is always open. They come in, I go to theirs. We're doing everything together, and it's been a blessing. A social group, socializing with my friends are my one of my favorite things, and my family.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That
I,
is awesome.
yeah. I crave time with others, and I wonder if I crave it more than average because work is in isolation. What
Hmm.
about you? Do you feel like that? Like trying to reach out to others to compensate for the loneliness at work?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm, one of the reasons I'm doing this,
Oh,
the podcast is, I really love catching up and then learning all these things that I didn't know. I thought I knew everything about you, but, yeah, so this is, yeah. And then, yeah, similar, whenever I get a chance, I, yeah, have my friends and family over for dinner or go to my mom's, my sisters and hang out. Um, yeah. And then I guess, yeah, I was gonna comment on Core Power, the Core Power Hot Yoga, the yoga studio chain. When I've been there in San Diego, this last time around, the Pacific Beach one closed, I think, for maintenance.
oh,
So
did
I'm
it?
guessing maybe that's why they put more effort into the Del Mar one. Um,
It's
but
great.
but yeah, no, I we're definitely very similar, and I think core power yoga and most yoga, studios it's an easy way to just get in, and you know that in an hour you'll feel better, even though it's going to take some effort, obviously. But yeah, highly yoga is still, and a little bit. I'm still doing a little bit of running as well. So I know we talked about finding a half or a full trail marathon to do together. So
A half, Fabian. I
yeah,
don't
half ultra. Yeah, we're starting with the half ultra. Um,
talking about it. I was like, what do you're like, no, yeah, it includes like elevation. I was like, how about oh my God. I'm really set and I want to do it. I mean, I think I sent you a few links. Like, I'm so pumped.
we're definitely gonna have to find a way to fit it into the schedule.
Yeah.
Um,
And by the
nice.
you talk about like you taught like when we were at the college, let's not forget, you were our yoga instructor. And I
That's right.
room after a long day of work and doing yoga. Yeah.
That's right. I'm pretty sure I asked around, and I'm pretty sure we were the first ones to bring yoga to the Trial Lawyers College in Wyoming. I think it was the first time that yoga classes happened.
And it was you had like great numbers for like the small. Yeah, it was great. I loved it. Mm.
Totally. Um, top gadget or thing that you've bought for under $100 within the last year that has uh, upgraded or up leveled in anything, any part of your life.
Oh, that's a good question. God, I would say the red light, but it was a little bit more than it was more than 100. And it wasn't a
Oh,
stop.
that's okay.
But God, it's been game changing. You know what? I got a new. If we're talking about yoga, I got the Lululemon yoga mat, and I'll tell you, it's so much better than the other stuff I was using in the past. Now I'm not slipping and sliding in claps. So that's
Nice.
not a gadget, but it's big.
No, that's awesome. Is that one easy to clean?
Yeah, and
Especially, with the hot yoga, yeah.
because, it's yeah, and I mean, I was replacing one, God, I wanna say, like, every, because 'cause I'm doing it 4 times a week, and it gets gross. Um, you know what's funny? I got this, like, yeah, it's easy to clean, but I got this unit now, which has a UVB light, and it steams and stuff like that, so actually I'm able my yoga mats last longer.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah. Actually,
What
do you have one that you've reached have you not a yoga mat, is there a gadget that's been life-changing for you that you've recently purchased?
um, man, I think, hmm, I replaced my AirPods. Those are more than $100, but I use those so much, like, just when I'm running, listening to podcasts, but then also, taking phone calls while I'm going on a walk, like work calls. I think that's been a good one. I'm trying to think. Man, I'll have to think on that one.
But you're right,
Yeah.
those, and now when they have a noise cancellation, you actually could go on the walk, the client hears you well, or whoever, or defense counsel, whoever you're talking to. That is life-changing, actually.
Totally. Yeah. And I'm curious, this UV thing, is it, like, especially made for yoga mats?
No, so,
Oh,
it's a unit, it's not an alternative to dry cleaning, but it's like a unit now that with steam and UV li you can put your suits in. So, my dry cleaning bill, especially for, 'cause our suits are j yeah, so my dry cleaning bill one time was insane. I mean, it's been building up, and then I ended up buying a unit that I keep in my house that has a UV light and a steamer, and
what is it called?
it's an LG, I don't know, the LG, it's like, it looks like, I could send you the link to it. It's something by LG, but
And it's just like a dry cleaning type thing? Cool.
and you could just
Never
steam your suits after, so instead of taking it to the dry cleaner or stuff like that, you just hang it. I run it overnight because it takes quite a bit of electricity, but I'll run it overnight, and then I wake up in the morning and the suits are perfect. So there's a UVB light that kills any bacteria and anything like that, and then super high steam, and then it dries and the suits look phenomenal.
Cool. That's awesome.
Saves you a
Yeah.
dry cleaning trip.
Heck yeah. Oh, that's very important during trial, especially 'cause, yeah, we go through those pretty quick.
Yeah.
Anything that I've missed, Diana?
No, I don't think so. I mean, but I had such a lovely conversation with you. Not
Yeah,
when I was at Lumi Island, it was just the biggest surprise just to see you there. It was so nice.
that was awesome.
Yeah.
Um, Man, well, yeah, looking forward to keeping in touch and catching up some more. Any, as far as if people wanna find you, are you on the social medias, or do you have a website where people can, you
Yeah,
know, stay in
um,
touch?
dianalegal.com. That's my website. Um, I think I don't even know what my through there you could get my Instagram, my LinkedIn, and stuff like that. I have to tell you, I'm quite boring on social media. It's nothing but, like, my legal blogs, case results, but I try to stay
Gotcha.
away from that stuff as much as I can.
Man, I'm trying to do my part in that as well, because yeah, social media can really, yeah, turn us around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Diana. This
You
was super fun. You have an awesome day, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you. Take care, Fabian.